Dear gentle readers, Bridgerton is back. And I'm stoked for season 4. But I want to go back to where it all began, because through these 4 seasons, technically 5 if we count this,
do you love me?
I love you!
There's been a different level of storytelling and romance through this series. A different level of character development that has been hard to top in this genre. But season 1 and this scene is where it all began. Okay, let's start this thing off. The most captivating element in season 1 is the writing. But isn't that the highlight of every season, of every spin-off? Isn't the dialogue so profound in Bridgerton with every important line between characters? What even is Bridgerton? Many would answer that by saying it's a romance drama, a book brought to life for a Netflix cash grab, or the 1800s version of The Summer I Turned Pretty. But it's so much more than that. Not every season is perfect. Seasons often have their flaws, but the story always feels rich. The backstories, traumas, and broken hearts from the characters that find ways to be healed through love, and often the brokenness that finds a way to be healed was never even made by romance to begin with. And that journey in each season's story always feels rich.
So sorry that it was you who was with your father that day.
But it's more than that. The payoff for season 1 in every season was seeing how 2 characters would end up together. But Bridgerton isn't just about the happy endings. I would argue that 80% of the story of every season has been about how 2 characters couldn't, how they shouldn't work. But the story, the fresh element every time that makes the story so worth it, is the answer to why and how they decide to make it work, despite the obstacles and differences that were put in their way. Bridgerton has never shied away from tough topics and themes. This story between Dapne and Simon digs deep into what makes each character vulnerable. And that's why the dialogue is so rich, because it speaks to something honest about that character's story.
You are my worst failure.
And Simon was the perfect plot point to rest this story on. The writing speaks to his trauma, to the things he had no control over. It's the parent emotional neglect or abuse that often goes so overlooked and too normalized. So normalized that so many people like Simon carry it with them for the rest of their lives, holding on to vows and agreements made to oneself because it's the only real feeling of control that that person had when it came to that relationship from that parent. But what the story also does so well is highlight how it affects Dapne. It highlights how the things we carry within ourselves, the trauma we choose to hold on to, affects the ones we want to love around us. And their story isn't perfect. There's a lot of flaws even in the writing. But I do have to applaud the writing, applaud the creative decision making for translating something so overlooked in real life and putting so much realism and depth and honesty to how overbearing emotional trauma can be, and they put that on the screen. And I could talk all day about the amazing setup for the payoff for a scene and story, but the big question will always be, can the scene stick the landing? How can we even relate to a scene like this? I think that's the big question that pulls this whole scene together. First off, I think you feel it. I don't think you just watch what happens in these 5 minutes. I think the emotions jump off the screen at you. I think you feel the slowing down of the camera. I think you feel the silence of the raindrops, the music score that's behind every word and echoes through every break and sentence exchange between 2 characters. Secondly, I think you can see the impact that not just these 2 characters are having in this moment, but the impact that the ones around them are having. I love the slight pause and far off stare from Violet. That says so much more than words could ever say.
I miss dancing with your father. I suppose I miss everything about him, really.
It's something that happens for just a quick moment, but it tells a story of grief, of past love and acceptance, but more so it highlights how everyone, even the ones that feel like side characters in life, have a story. But more than anything in this scene, I think you know how real the words that are spoken are. I think we've all experienced how often love, while how it should be, isn't always something that is a given. We grow up getting sold fairy tales and fables on how love just magically worked. But what Bridgerton offers in its story is that the magic behind love comes from choosing it.
We chose to love each other every single day. It is a choice, dearest. One that is never too late to make.
But what makes this scene even more special is the way the writing foils the story. Simon made a vow because of the lack of love shown from his father, and Dapne breaks that wall down, not off of the strength of her love alone, but from the love that was given to her by her parent. And Violet was able to offer that to her child because Violet did choose to experience love in her past. And that choice has power.
You can choose to love me as much as I love you. That should not be up to anyone else. That cannot be up to anyone else. It can only be up to you.
I think that's how we all relate, because we all know no relationship will ever be perfect. No person will ever be perfect. We will never be perfect. But the natural human want is to feel accepted.
I love all of you. Every scar, every flaw, every imperfection. I love you.
So that's what Bridgerton is. It's the story that brings realism to the things that we all naturally hope for. Not a story of magic, but how to capture that magic. And it's why season 1 and this scene will always be where this series first started.